Hello, everybody. The, Today's video will be about Night School, and it's not a review, but it's just my thoughts on the movie Night School. So, for me, the movie Night School was definitely funny, and I've always liked Kevin Hart as a comedian. I mean, not really as a comedian, but really as an actor. Even though there are times where he just tries to push too much. He tries to push the. This is what's wrong with Kevin Hart though, and this is my thought on why I think Kevin Hart is good, and why I think he's bad in this. I mean, as a comedian or as an actor himself, the reason he's not that amazing, but he is funny at times. He's not that amazing because he he forces himself to talk a lot, and I think he's trying to follow the steps of Chris Tucker by talking and talking and talking and trying to be funny like Chris Tucker. But he's not Chris Tucker and he will never be Chris Tucker. So this movie was not the best movie out there, but it was a good movie. It was an amazing movie. I've watched it from beginning to end and I loved it. Not because it's the best movie out there, but it's because there haven't really been any comedy movies out there that could take it. I wouldn't be able to say, "Oh, this comedy movie is the best." No. I mean, look, so far whenever this movie came out, which I'm doing it at the time that this movie's out, and I feel that this movie was incredible. Not the best, but it was great. The reason for that is because Kevin Hart. The funny part about Kevin Hart is that Kevin Hart, he has a stable job. He's going to be the head company or the boss or the new owner of this grill location or grill shop. I would say a shop, grill shop that sells grills, and he's going to be at the top. And it seems like everything's going great for him. At first, in the beginning of the movie, you could see him as, look, I won't graduate from high school. I don't need this. I don't need to graduate. I don't need to, like this. I don't need to graduate. I don't need to have a high school diploma. I don't need none of that. I could have a nice job. I could have a nice car. I could have everything I've ever wanted without having to graduate from high school and getting a diploma. And that is where nowadays in real life, I have to allude this to real life, where most people say the same thing. High school is hard. I don't like. Everybody loves elementary school because elementary school people definitely have fun. They have experiments. They play. Most of the time it's just let's play a game of tag or whatever. They just make it as easy as possible in elementary school. And after elementary school, you get to middle school, where it's an in between of elementary school of fun and of high school where it's hard. I mean, not hard, but most of the time it's hard working. You have to work hard to get the good grades. In middle school, it's like you can probably pass if you at least try. And in high school, it's like if you want to be a grade A student, you have to try, never slack, never be absent, study, study, study. And that's where I'm like, okay, I got you. But that's where Kevin Hart says, I'm not graduating. And after he drops out of high school, you get to see him in the future or in the present, I would say, because where they're showing Kevin Hart is in the past. So now you get to the present, and that's where you see Kevin Hart having a nice car, having a woman, having a nice job, even being even the boss or the owner of the place says, "Here, here are the keys to your new place. As soon as in a couple of years or in so many years, I'm going to retire. So this job is for you. This is for you." And everything seems to be going great until Kevin Hart decides to have some sort of wedding or proposal. He starts to propose inside the shop until one of the grills has a leakage, or one of the tanks, the gas tanks, has a leakage. Then the whole place explodes, and Mr. Hart, he gets knocked out really bad because of the explosion. And that's when Kevin Hart loses the job, loses the business, loses everything. And that's where Kevin Hart decides to, he doesn't decide to tell anybody that he doesn't have a high school diploma, he doesn't have a college degree, he has nothing on his side. And they go to a restaurant, and Kevin Hart is like, "I'll pay for it. I have all the money. I have all of this amount of money. Pay for the food, pay for everything." And in reality, Kevin Hart has $0 in his pocket, so he has to make things up and put his bald hair, his groin hair, his down there hair onto the plates of food, and causes a ruckus in the place because you can't refund them, you can't give them the food for free because there's a hair inside the food, and everybody's trying to protect Mr. Kevin Hart. And that's where his woman says, "I need you to pay for this. I need you to do this for me. I need you to have this steady job." And that's where Kevin Hart starts losing the car, starts losing everything in his life. And he goes to night school in order to be able to at least have a decent job, because he's going to work at a new place. But he's not, because he's planning to work at a new place with his friend, but they don't allow him to work in the big company because he doesn't have a high school diploma or a GED. But he at least wants a GED, so they could at least barely be able to hire him. And when that happens, so he takes night school for many, many days. And he's building up. First, he uses night school as a joke against Tiffany Haddish, or Tiffany Haddish, however you say her last name, Haddish, whatever. And she finds him as a joke. She finds him as a joke because they already met up in the street, in the car, 2 cars, and saying, "Why are you why are you listening to my conversation, Mr. Kevin Hart?" But I don't know his name, so I just use Kevin Hart and Tiffany Haddish, the real names, as their character names, and I go on with that. So when they're in the car, they have a fight. They say, I don't want anything to do with you. Stop listening to my conversation, little man, or I don't know, shorty or whatever, because Kevin Hart is really short. I'm short too, but I'm not really, really short. I'm shorter than most people, just so you guys know. But Kevin Hart, I think he's a little bit shorter than me, I think, or so. He's like 5'4", 5'3". I don't know, like 5'3" or 5'4", and that's where Kevin Hart is like, "All right, just get out of here, lady. Get out of here. Get out of my way." And that's what builds up that Tiffany Haddish doesn't want anything with Kevin Hart in her class because the principal is the same dude that was in his high school class that said, "You're not going to be anything. You're not going to be anything, Kevin Hart. You won't have a job. You won't have anything." And most of those people don't like Kevin Hart. Like the high school principal doesn't like Kevin Hart. He says, "Get out of here. Get out of here. I don't want I don't want anything to do with you. There's no night school here. Get out. Go look for this school and join and you can go to night school." But Tiffany Haddish says, "Why are you lying to him? Why are you lying to him? You're saying there's no night school here? Yes, there is night school. I accept everybody. I'm not going to turn anybody away from here." So that's the build-up. That's the reason that Tiffany Haddish in the beginning of night school doesn't like Kevin Hart because Kevin Hart already had a problem with her. So Kevin Hart is different. He tries to sucker up to the teacher and says, "I brought you tacos." In their next couple of night classes, Kevin Hart brings an apple. Then the next one, Kevin Hart brings tacos and says, "You're not going to trick me. You're not going to sucker me up by bringing me tacos. You're not going to sucker me up by bringing me apples. You're not going to sucker me up and think that you're going to be teacher's pet and you're going to get a good grade just because you're in time. You're on time and you're bringing me food. That's not going to happen." And Kevin Hart is slowly coming up with lies anyways because he's lying to his woman that he's engaged. He's lying. He's saying, "I'm working night shifts. I'm doing this, I'm doing that," and and that's a lie because in reality he's going to night school and he's lying to his woman. At the same time, even the principal doesn't like Kevin Hart again. He doesn't like him. So he uses his wife that is into planning. I don't know if he's planning to remodel his house or planning to take trips or something. The principal and says, "You can meet me at this day and at this time at school. You can meet me." And why does that happen to Kevin Hart? Is because the principal doesn't like Kevin Hart. So that's the reason he's trying to get Kevin Hart's woman to find out that Kevin Hart's taking night classes. And don't forget, if you watch this movie, as most of you haven't, or if you have, Kevin Hart is also working at a Christian chicken location or chicken place. And the problem that Tiffany Haddish has against Kevin Hart also is that when they take a test to prove that they are capable of succeeding, taking the test so they could graduate from that and take the final exam that gives them the GED. But the problem is that Kevin Hart gets all the questions I think that the test that they're getting is because Kevin Hart cheated. I think that it's the test, the graduation test for the GED. But the problem is that Kevin Hart goes inside the principal's office and gets all the test questions, the answers, and knows everything already. So Kevin Hart just hands out all the test questions, the answers, everything, the keys, everything, and that's where Tiffany Haddish doesn't really suspect anything. It says, "Congratulations, everybody, you did good," but she has to ask one of the classmates about this thing and ask, "Are you sure that you all passed the test? Are you sure, Mr. whatever?" And I think it was Rob Reiner. I think it's Rob Reiner, the one that I don't know if that's his name, but I think his name is Rob Reiner, the guy from Hangover, the cop in Hangover one that that tases Zach Galifianakis or Zach Galifianakis. I think that's how you say his name. So that's the guy that spills it for everybody. Says, "Are you kidding? You guys cheated?" And don't forget that Fat Joe is in prison, also taking the test, and he's the one that says, "How how could anybody look at me? I'm in jail. I cannot steal the test." And that's where I'm saying that's true. He can't steal the test if he's in jail. He's locked up. And Kevin Hart also, he's honest and says, "Here, I'm the one that cheated. I'm the one that gave the test out. Everything went down because of me." He explicitly tells Tiffany Haddish of the plans that happened, and all of that. Says, "I cheated. I gave the test to everybody." And Tiffany Haddish says, "Thank you for telling me. Thank you for telling me the truth. But one thing, if you lie and you have to cheat in order to pass the test, then you don't want to be in my class. You should go home. You don't want to be in my class." Until Kevin Hart has his character has to come back to school and ask for forgiveness, beg Tiffany, say, "Help me, give it to me, give me another chance. How could you give me another chance if you don't want you don't really want to take the test? Why? You don't even care about it in my class. Why are you gonna come back and beg me?" Until she kind of gets lighthearted or something, or gets soft and says, "I will give you another chance. I will. I will give you another chance. Don't worry. I'll give you another chance." And that's when I'm like, okay, that's fair. She should give him another chance. He wants to change. He wants to be better. He wants to progress and be a better person. And that's when I'm like, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. But, and I will give this but Kevin Hart, he's he gets tested. He gets tested because Kevin Hart gets tested. Well, she gives him a test because Tiffany Haddish during the day is a mental no is a special ed teacher, and that's how she finds out that Kevin Hart is not a smart student and he has kind of learning disability, and says, "Let's take the test, and if you have a learning disability, or let's see how you do in this test." And she finds out he has a learning disability, so she says, "Okay, I'll help you a lot more." She even takes him through hardships. She gives him a hard time. She 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 uses him. She 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 shows him she shows him, she teaches him how to learn. Give him, say, "You're gonna learn like this," and she takes him fighting. She gives him the hardest obstacles out there. And like I said, they find out that it's a lie. Like I was saying earlier, the lady that Kevin Hart is engaged to finds out that he's working night school. He lost his car. He lost his business. He doesn't have a business either. He doesn't have a job because no high school diploma, no GED, no nothing. And the girl that is engaged to him says, "I thought I knew you. I thought I could trust you. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you cheating on me? Well, why are you hurting me? And he tries to explain, I I am coming to night school because I don't have a GED. I don't have a job. I don't have a high school diploma. I don't have anything under my name. I wasn't the best student out there. I was an F student. I give up easily. And that's when this girl leaves him and says, "You know I have a job. You know I have a high school diploma. I have a diploma. I don't know what kind of diploma she has, but that's where it goes. Like, I have a diploma. What are you talking about? You don't have to do this to me. You don't have to lie. I don't want to be with you anymore." She gives back the ring, and that's where Kevin Hart says, "I gotta try harder." Takes the test. Everybody passes except Kevin Hart through the GED test. And Kevin Hart takes the test 3, 4, 5, I think like 10 times or 20 times or 30 times or 40. Let's just say 70, 100, 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times he takes the test and fails many times until all of a sudden he takes the test the like the millionth time, and that's when he passes. Finally you pass, Kevin Hart, after like 1,000,000 times. But he takes the test millions of times because it's not that he stays another year, and another year. It's like, let's say, it's like this. In 1 month, like say October is when they pass it, when they pass the test. Then they give them September. Oh no, we said October. So November, December, and though no, let's just say in August they take the test. I don't know if it's true. In August, then September, October, November, December. He has all that time to retake the test, and he takes it millions of times until he passes it. And the girl he was engaged to comes to his comes to his graduation and says, Kevin Hart explains that he had a learning disability. He had all kinds of disabilities and he didn't try, and he wished that he could fix it. And he thanks his dad, he thanks his mom, he thanks even his woman that he was engaged to. And that's sad. That's kind of sad, and at the same time uh, good, because he the character Kevin Hart as the character, as his character, he wants to show the world that anybody can graduate from anything, and you don't need to go to college in order to graduate. You don't need to go to a university. You don't need to go anywhere to have a good job or anything. Or you don't have to go far, but you at least have to try. Try until you get some sort of diploma, or try at least to graduate something. He's just showing you as his character that that's what he wants. He wants to show that he can do something. That it's not just about, oh, just failing at everything. He's trying to show that even the dumbest person out there can be successful. The dumbest person. And I kind of have that thought too, that yeah, if I were dumb, if I was like a if I had a learning disability, and by saying a learning disability is not the same thing as special ed, because I think special ed is for people that are, for me, I've felt like special education is not, I've never seen it for me. I don't know if it's true or not, but knowing of special education during my elementary through high school years, not really high school, because in special education classes, I think they're separated from high school, from the high school students. They're in special, kind of like their own special little school inside of the same camp. I think inside the same campus, but through different through different times. Like say lunch is at 12 and they have lunch maybe at 11 something. and they have different classes and everything. But what I mean about special education, for me, I've always thought that special education was more of people have that are sick. Like say, I was I was born as, I don't want to say that kind of word. I mean like people that were born different, because what I mean different is that they have they were born with Down syndrome, or they were born with, the guys are like that. I'm not trying to say mental disability, because mental disability is different than what these kids are with disabilities. That they were born in wheelchairs, and they have a they have Down syndrome. They have other stuff. I don't necessarily mean mental disability, because a mental disability is like me being normal, but like there's nothing wrong with me, but just that a mental disability, I don't necessarily mean that if I'm normal, like there's nothing wrong with my body. Look, I can move, I can run, I can walk, I can shake my hands. That's good. I don't have no mental disability, but I mean, I'm not. If I can do that like this, I could go like this. See, and I don't. And special ed for me doesn't mean that. I've never thought of it as this, as me being able to move my hands, but then having a learning disability where I can talk normal like this, and I can go round and round and run, walk, jump, hop, say hello everybody, goodbye everybody, and being being in a special education class. Because when I think of special education, I think of people that were born different, like Down syndrome, or some kind of sickness where they cannot properly talk, and they cannot properly learn, because mental disability for me is not the same thing as those guys. That I wouldn't consider them the same, because if I'm a student that can do this and go like this and talk and say hi and say all kinds of stuff, but I can't learn that well, that doesn't mean that you should be in special education because of that, because there's nothing wrong with me. I can have a conversation with someone, and that's how I've always felt it. So that's just my thought on that. So that's how I feel that this is. So that movie really kind of represents true. I love those types of movies that you can kind of you can I mean, I don't necessarily say you can relate to, because I I didn't really have that problem of learning and having to take a test like 20 times or 30 times or whatever. I've never had to have that possibility. I mean I've never gone through that route. I've never gone through none of that. The only thing I have to say is that whoever goes through that struggle, I'm glad that you actually passed, even though it's hard for some of you. I would consider this more of a movie for people that are foreign. And by foreign I mean, like, say someone comes from Mexico, or someone comes from China, or from a different country, and they come here, they learn English, and they take the test, and it's hard for them because the number one language is not English. And I could understand them. Say, look, how come you're making it super hard for them, if they're barely coming from another country to sit here and study this and be everything they want to be. And I'm not trying to put anybody on the spot, but I'm just trying to say, those people can relate more to this movie than I can, because as a high school student, I graduated. I got my diploma, my high school diploma. But college, I don't go, and I won't go. I don't feel like it's a necessity to go to college in order to have a job or whatever. Because look at what's my life. My life is trying to be here on YouTube, and it's not that successful yet, but it's growing, and I'm just proud of that. So, as always, now that we've come to the end of this video, I would just like to say that I enjoyed this movie. It was enjoyable. It wasn't the best movie out there, but it was by far better than everything I've watched this year, because most comedies haven't made me feel happy. Hasn't been successful for me. Like, I haven't sat down and laughed during a movie in a while. And comedy movies are more harder to come up through, because comedy movies now, people are just making movies and calling them comedies without even trying to do anything. So that's my thought on this movie. So I would say this movie doesn't get a 10 out of 10. It gets like a 7 out of 10, because it's I cannot relate to this, but I understand where that people can relate to this movie and people can love this movie, but it's not for me. But I did enjoy it. So for the most part, I enjoyed it, but I did not relate to it. So whoever could relate to this movie, Night School, then good for you. So that's the end of this movie. So thank you guys for watching, and you'll get more reviews in the future.